Alright, so here's the offending wire. It basically snapped off the inside of the connector. So I'm cutting all of these off, and I'm going to stick a different adapter on. I'll match up the color codes as close-ish as I can, but I'm not super worried about it. As long as all the wires just go straight through. I just need to be able to take those 4 wires here and connect them to these 4 wires here. I already cut the adapter off. That's pretty funky anyway, so that won't be bad. But I do want to get heat shrink tubing on those because I want to have the slightest amount of excess stuff in there as possible. I know it's hard to see, but these wires are pretty much black on the outsides. It's gonna make them kind of difficult to solder, but I'll scrape these up with a razor blade a little bit to try and just get some of the copper exposed, and then douse them with solder and see where we go. All right, so I took my razor knife and scraped along the sides, and you can see the lower one looks a lot better than the upper one, which I have not done yet. All right, so this is the good side of the wire, and you can see the difference between good clean copper and copper which is not. All right, I've got my heat shrink tubing on there. There we go. That's one. There you go, another one soldered. So it's bound together, and of course, I did not forget to put my heat shrink tubing on. I got it way back here, so because of the excessive amount of heat that I used to get this connect up, I'm just leaving this way back here until this wire's cool to the touch, because you don't want the heat shrink tubing to solidify and shrink up before you get it over the area. That's good now. So I usually get it about as centered as I can and then feel for the edges. So I got an edge here and I got an edge here. So I know my brake is right in the center. So when I get my heat gun, get it back in heat gun mode. There you go. So that gives plenty of connection on either side, and allows me to make sure that that stays as waterproof as it can for many, 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 many years. Make sure I put my heat gun back down in cooling mode. Pointed away from anything flammable. That's CLR. That's not really flammable, but still don't need it that close. All right. So I've got my wire here. I'm just scraping that until it's shiny. And rotate it around to where the black is. I'm just going around as much as I possibly can to get all the black rot off this wire. Once again, this is not ideal. The ideal thing would be to pull this entire wiring harness out, because it looks like this vehicle was at the bottom of the ocean for many years, and just get rid of the entire wiring harness. But in the meantime, it's not what I'm going to do. Instead, I'm just going to take some heat shrink tubing, whip that all the way down the end so that doesn't get melted up. Twist these little guys together so that they're a nice solid-ish union as much as I can possibly get them. Stick that on the side of my soldering thing. Alright, that looks pretty good. And then I'm going to zoom in a little bit, I think. Yeah, that'll be good. Hopefully you'll be able to see this. So I'm going to do exactly what they tell you not to do. I'm going to take and I'm going to put solder directly on top of the wire. And I'm just going to heat that up. Normally you'd want to come in from the bottom and then draw it through. But this is a rosin core solder, and I'm going to need some of the acid in there to kind of eat its way through the junk. So normally you wouldn't have to do this if it was clean wire, but because this is incredibly dirty wire, I'm just doing whatever I can to physically abrade that stuff. Now it's starting to soak in. You can see it soaking into the wire. Then I'm going to let it go. That's done. Give that a few more seconds. Cool down a little bit. wipe it down a little bit, just to get any kind of residual rosin off from there. Let that cool down a little bit more. So once again, I don't want my heat shrink to shrink up before it's time. Put my finger right about there. Stop that there. That's good. Keep my heat gun out. Put it back to cool, and we have one wire left. Keep in mind this is 1/2 of the harness. All right, so I got these guys done. Now all I have to do is follow suit on this end. This will be the truck end. I got to finish stripping these, and then those will get soldered to these guys right up here. And then I'll test them, and hopefully it'll work. That'd be good. So I can toss my light housing back into position. I've got my heat shrink tubing tossed way up in there, and I've got my wires as cleaned up as we're gonna get them. I thought I had a little bit of a wrinkle in there because it looked like one of the greens had a red stripe on it, but it didn't. I don't know what I was seeing. I mean, this one's got a white stripe on it, but I thought I saw red. I think it was just because I was over by the toolboxes, and I freaked for a minute because none of these have been any different colors on them. So, well, yeah, that one does. That one does have a red. That has a red stripe. All right, well, all right, I'm back to freaking again. But all freaking aside, the only one that has an actual marking that I can see is this white here, and there's a white on the other one, so it's a 50-50. What's the worst that could happen? All right, so before you heat shrink these guys, I'm gonna check the lights. See how the LEDs are in here. It's always easier to work with this vehicle up high if you can. So I like to just get it right up off the ground. I'll attach it to a chain pawl and hook that to a tiny hook just hanging off from some OSB. Yeah, that'll do it. And there we go, problem solved. So I'll just slide my heat shrink tubing down after I get that cleaned up. The cover's back on, and she's back in business. All right, another job finished. I guess all I probably need to do is put her in the ground.